So I am going to talk about maps. I'm just kidding. Who has taken an international flight recently? Can you tell me where you started and where you... I'm assuming you started from here. Where'd you go?
Well, the most recent flight was the opposite direction.
Okay. Oh. Your journey. There you go.
Yeah. So the round trip was DC to Dubai.
Dubai. And you went straight to Dubai, and that was where your final destination was?
No. So I flew through Qatar.
Ah, interesting. Okay. So you connected through Qatar. Who else had a...
Scotland.
Scotland. And did you go DC direct to Scotland, or did you connect somewhere?
I went to London.
London.
Yeah.
Ah. Who has connected through London before? The common one. Two more.
I went to Estonia and went through Iceland.
Iceland, Reykjavik.
Yep.
Cool.
Shanghai through Seattle.
Okay, so that is pretty common today. Today, current state, when you take a flight, you are probably going to connect through some central hub to get to your final destination. 5 to 10 years from now, I'm pretty confident that will change entirely. And it's not speculation, it's definitely happening. So I have to bore you with a little bit of history. I'm going to talk about big planes, and when I say big planes, I mean planes with 4 engines, or 3 engines, I guess I should say. Planes with not 2 engines. Before, in like the mid 50s or 60s, when commercial air was just getting going, the FAA was very concerned about planes where their engines would just stop working in the middle of the flight and they would crash. So to combat that, they came out with a regulation called the 60-minute rule, meaning that if you were flying in an airplane with 2 engines, you had to be within 60 minutes of a diversion airport. So if there was a problem, you had to be within an hour of landing. So that obviously posed a problem for transatlantic flights, or basically flights that were outside your country, because you had a bunch of space in here that you could not legally fly with a 2-engine plane. So airline manufacturers came up with bigger planes, 4-engine planes, 747, the A380, the DC-10, which was a tri-jet. Had 3 engines to get around this rule. So, if we look at a flight between New York and London, this is a pretty common one. With the 60-minute rule, if you had a 2-engine plane, which are more common, they're cheaper to build, they have more capacity, you would actually have to go above in an inefficient route all the way there, whereas this red path would be if you had a 3 or 4 engine plane. So what that basically meant for the industry is if you were flying across the ocean, you had to have a 3 or 4 engine plane, which are more expensive, they're bigger, so airlines, to be economical, had to jam they had to fill the plane, so they would offer less routes with bigger planes. So that's kind of like the history of it. And it's kind of funny because that actually shaped a lot of communities. For example, Honolulu, it's in the middle of nowhere. So the 60-minute rule, it was very difficult to get to Honolulu or to Hawaii in general unless you run a big plane, and it was only economical to run a big plane to Honolulu. So all of the islands that weren't Honolulu, I don't know my Hawaii geography all that well, but they did not develop because basically there was only one way, and that was through Honolulu. So they built up the airport at Honolulu, and only big planes flew there. So the 60-minute rule was very limiting, and the industry kind of formed around big planes flying hub and spoke routes between major hubs. Now what's changing is we're finding that that 60-minute rule was a little bit overly cautious, as most things in the airline industry are. Planes, twin engines, can now achieve what's called an ETOPS rating, and ETOPS stands for Extended Range Twin Engine Operational Performance Standards. And with an ETOPS rating, it comes with a number after it. So who's heard of the 787 Dreamliner? Okay, pretty common. That has an ETOPS rating of 330. So whereas you can call the 60-minute rule ETOPS 60, where you could only fly to places within an hour of a diversion airport, now you have the 787, which has a ETOPS rating of 330. So you put that 6 hours? 6.5 hours. So what that is doing is that is opening up a bunch of different routes, and the 787 is not a big airplane at all. So the A380 is a double-decker, it holds like 540 people, 747 is a double-decker. The 787 is like a Southwest Airlines, if you've ever flown on Southwest, a 737. And in fact, a lot of other airplanes, like regional jets, are starting to get their ETOPS certification as well. It's funny that I should also note ETOPS is not just for the plane. The airline also has to get certified for diversion sort of logistics around it. There was an anecdote of a flight that was coming from Shanghai, it was going to Chicago. It had to divert in Cold Bay, Alaska, and in order to fly that route, they had to have a bunch of contingency plans because no one lives here, and if 500 people flying in a plane suddenly show up here, there's not enough housing or food to take care of them. So in order to get your ETOPS rating, you also have to prove that you can fly mechanics and food and shelter. So there's, if you're filing a flight plan with ETOPS, it's pretty intricate, the level of detail you have to go through. But what this means for 5 to 10 years is instead of going, I forget what one of the routes was. Reykjavik. So you went and you were going to Estonia.
Yep.
You could probably, in the next 5-10 years, find a flight out of BWI that's going directly to Estonia, rather than having to go to a hub and then connect and then do all this other stuff. The term in the airline industry is long and skinny. So you can start having longer routes with skinnier, shorter, smaller airplanes from less expensive markets, less populated markets. So really, if you've watched the orders for big planes, Airbus hasn't had an order for a big plane in years. And the 787 and the So this is the ETOPS 330, so what the 787 has. Basically, you can fly anywhere. Airbus came out with an A350, and that got rated at ETOPS 370. So basically, you can fly anywhere, everywhere that you're in an A350, you can divert safely to a new diversion airport if there are problems with these. So with fairly good certainty, I'm going to say that you're going to see 747s and A380s coming out of the mix. Unfortunately, a bunch of airlines have them, so they'll try and find uses for them. But the future of air travel is very economical, very fuel-efficient planes that don't carry a lot of people, going from a bunch of smaller markets across the Atlantic. So that is 5 to 10 years ahead of aviation.